What's going on, men? Welcome back to the Mentality Podcast. I'm Elijah if you're just joining. And if you've been tracking with us this season, then we've been doing the internal work about identity, discipline, brotherhood, renewing your mind, and actually becoming the man that God created you to be. So today we're going to talk about Leadership 101 and how influence is over position, because whether we realize it or not, we're already leading. We're leading somewhere, and we don't get to opt out of leadership in our lives. Somebody is always watching us, and they're watching how we live, how we're moving, and, how we're doing life. And it's going to be our wife, it's going to be our kids, our coworkers, our friends, a younger brother, or the guy who just looks up to you but never really says it out loud. So someone's always going to be taking cues from your life, and they're going to always be looking up to you. And whether you realize that or not, that's leadership. And here's where most men get get it wrong sometimes, and we think leadership starts with a title or a position. We think it starts when I'm the boss or when I'm the husband, when I'm in charge, then I'm going to lead. Then I'm going to step up and fulfill that leadership role in my life. But that's not where it starts. That's those are positions of leadership, but that's not where leadership begins or where it starts. Leadership doesn't start when you're given that authority. Leadership starts when your life starts affecting the people around you, and you begin leading and discipling people, whether you're realizing it or not. So today's episode is going to be really simple. It's just leadership 101. It's influence over position, because real leadership isn't about climbing higher on the ladder. It's about becoming a man worth following. So every man is already leading, like we established. And the truth is that leadership is influence. And that's it. There's nothing required. There's no title required for it, no position available for it. Once you start realizing that you're leading people and your life has influence in their lives, then that's when leadership begins in your life. So it only makes sense that we as men learn more about leadership and how to lead our families and how to lead our lives and how to lead those around us, and because influence is already happening in our lives. And the real question isn't, am I a leader? The real question is, what direction is my life leading those people in? Where am I impacting them? Where does my attitude begin to shift the room? Where does my decisions begin to impact others? What does my words, how does my words affect someone else's life? Because everything about you is teaching something to somebody else. How you handle your stress, how you treat your wife, how you respond when you're disrespected, how you work, how you rest, what you tolerate and what you pursue. So men, your life is loud even when your mouth is shut. So when you walk into a room and you're carrying frustration on your shoulders, people around you are going to feel it. When you walk into your home and you're carrying peace, your family's going to feel that. They're going to notice that, because leadership leaks out of your life. So what's inside of you eventually shows up around you. So when Jesus shows up on the scene, he redefines what leadership is in our life. So what the world says, the world's going to tell us that leadership is power. But Jesus, he was the model of leadership in our life, and his model of leadership was service. So Mark 10, he looks at his disciples and he says, if you want to be great, you got to become a servant. And that cuts against everything that we're taught about leadership in our lives, is that in order to get higher on the ladder, we got to climb, we got to dominate, we got to take control. But Jesus says serve, sacrifice, and lay down your own life. And then he backs it up with his own life. He actually walks this out in real time in front of his disciples. The King of Kings was on his knees washing his disciples' feet. He was touching the leper, the untouchable. He was restoring broken men, and he was carrying a cross up a hill. That is real leadership in action. He not only explained and told people this is how it's got to be done and this is how leadership is to happen. He exemplified that in his own life, and he actually stepped out and showed them what it was like to be that leader. And a title can make you a boss in the real world. So when you get out into corporate America and you're in a manufacturing business, or you're in the construction business, or whatever business that you're in, you're going to notice that you can get that title. You just got to do what people tell you to do. And they'll reward you with that title, but that title only makes you a boss. It doesn't actually make you a leader, because leadership, as we discovered earlier, is influence. It's not just a title that comes with it. And we've all seen this in our own lives and with the people around us, that men with authority, we oftentimes, those in authority have the title and they're the boss, but do they really have the respect? And men, they're men that people obey, but they don't really trust, you know. I've seen it in the corporate world. Um, I've had a few jobs, and I've seen all of these roles play out. Like there were leaders who were leaders because they earned the title. You know, they worked their way up the ladder, and they did what they were told, but they really didn't have the respect of the men underneath them or the women underneath them. And I've also seen the flip side of that, where men who were actually leading by example, and they stepped in there, they weren't afraid to roll up their sleeves and actually show how the work is supposed to be done, and then guide people along and say, this is how you do it. You know, this is what you need to do. And those are two different sides of the same coin, really, because you can have that title, but you can't you don't always have that respect. So to get that respect, you have to realize that you you are influencing people by what you say and what you do. So men with no title, um, if you'll notice, like in your job, there's these men on the job who don't necessarily have the title, but they have the influence over the men. So they've got the influence over the congregation and over the people around them, and they're leading because they're in there with they're in the trenches with the people, you know, and they're they're able to influence those people because of their actions. And it's not necessarily their words that are influencing them. It's that these guys are in there with them, and they've earned their respect, which that is a much more profound example of leadership, because trust creates influence and influence creates the leadership. And these people they show up on the job every day, and they're honest and they're dependable, and they're the same man in private as they are in public. They're not out here trying to pretend to be the boss. They're actually being the boss, and they don't even realize it. So character becomes everything in your life in this scenario, in this leadership role. Because do you, do you want to lead well is the question. A lot of men, um, they might want to lead, but do they want to really lead well in their life? And that comes through character and building character in your life. And you can't build it off of talent. You can't build it off of gimmick. You have to build character on a strong, solid foundation. And Paul lays it out in First Timothy chapter 3, and he says he doesn't start with Timothy's gifting. He starts with who the man is to him, and he's he's self-controlled, he's faithful, he's not arrogant, he's not violent, he's not greedy, because talent might open the door and might get your foot in the door, but character is what keeps the door open. and it's what keeps you in the room. And the hard truth is that many men can build something their character doesn't really or can't sustain. And so eventually the the role of the leader and the pressure piles on top and it collapses us because our character wasn't built, our integrity wasn't built to handle the weight and the pressure of that role in our life. So eventually everything collapses. And it's not because we're not gifted, it's because we weren't grounded, we weren't rooted in it. And men, who you are when nobody's watching, that's your leadership ceiling. So so your first assignment is always going to be at home. And a lot of men want to lead out there, but they're absent in their home. And they can lead a group of guys a lot better than they can lead their actual household. So listen and notice that your first leadership assignment is not your job, it's your household. Your wife doesn't need your leftovers. She doesn't need you to come in every day and just give her the scraps of leadership in your life. She needs you to actually step up and be the leader in your family. And your kids don't need the leftovers. They need you to be present. They need you to be consistent. They need you to be engaged. They need you to be not perfect, but real. They need you to be there for them when they need you to be there. So your kids are watching how you handle the pressure and how you treat their mother and how you how you respond when something's messed up, when something goes wrong. And they're watching you constantly. And if they're watching whether or not if you own it when you're wrong. So when you get something wrong and you mess up, they're wanting to know. They're watching to see how does he handle this situation. Is he going to own his mistakes? Is he going to like step up and really take ownership of what's happening in the situation? So leadership starts at your table. It starts when when you sit down with your family and you actually give them direction because they need that from you. And I know in my own family, I've not always been the one to actually step up. And because in my own childhood, uh, my dad wasn't really ar- around or in the picture a lot. So it kind of made things harder when it came to uh, learning how to lead in my life. So to learn how to lead my family has been a struggle, but it's something that's a process. You got to keep working at it, and it starts when you sit down and you actually have conversations with your family, and that can be around the dinner table, that can be riding down the road in your car, it can be on game night, family night, when you're just sitting around having a good time with your family. You can act They're actually watching your actions and they're watching your life. If you're not leading there, nothing out there is going to make up for it. So you can build your accolades at home or on the job with the men, and your home life be falling apart. And this is what really matters: your home, your kids, your children, your wife. This is the family business. This is the business you need to really be working on. So if you're not leading there, nothing out there is going to make up for it. So vision gives you direction. And a man without vision tends to drift from here to there. The Bible says that a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways, and he's constantly back and forth, and he's not stable in his life. So the problem with that is it's not only the man drifting, it's everyone around him drifts also. And the vision is simple. It's here's who we are, here's where we're going, here's who we're going to be, and this is how we're going to live. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as something like Joshua said in in Joshua, I think it was Joshua 24, that As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That this house serves the Lord. This house tells the truth. We handle conflict the right way. We don't quit when life gets hard. That's leadership. That's leading your family. Is you're teaching your family to keep going, keep moving forward. We've got this. Everything is under control. We're not going to fall apart in this. Life's going to throw stuff that at us that's hard, and sometimes we don't understand it. But we're going to make it through this, and we're going to keep walking with our heads held high because we're going to make it through. We're going to build this life together, and we're going to build it strong. And people don't just need instructions; they need direction in their lives. They need to know where this thing is going and where it's headed which which if you did any kind of construction or building in your life, you know the importance of having blueprints and having those notes in the blueprints, from the owners and the architects and the designers and how everything's going to be laid out. Because once you start building, you have to follow that direction and you have to follow that lead. And the men who are following you need to follow that lead because everything has order and has place, and all of those things have to be implemented at the right time in order for the structure to be sound and to be up to code. So in our lives, there's things that have to happen and have to take place in order for us to have a strong infrastructure and for our integrity to be where it needs to be in order for us to grow strong and go forward as a family. So knowing where it's headed gives you the ability to schedule things out, and to make things happen in a timely manner. So now I want to talk about responsibility over rights. So boys talk about rights, but men actually take responsibility. So are you a boy who just feels like this is what I deserve, or are you a man who takes responsibility? So the world's going to tell you and ask you, what do I deserve? And the man of God's going to stand up and say, what have I been entrusted with? So this is the difference. You're learning to actually steward your life. You've been entrusted with life, and you've been entrusted with your family, you've been entrusted with time, influence, and opportunities. And it's not just something that happened to you randomly. This is responsibility. And responsibility is not a burden. It's actually a calling, and it's actually your purpose in your life to take responsibility for what you have and actually steward that and be present in that, because it forces you to stop blaming everything around you and to start owning what's in your control. So you don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be consistent because consistency builds trust. Your family doesn't need a highlight reel. They need a man to show up, to be there, to be present, to be in the middle of it all, to be right there with them. And they need that again and again and again and again in their lives. They need that to be consistent in their lives. Leadership is built in the ordinary, it's built in the everyday. So keeping your word matters. Doing what you said you would do, apologizing when you're wrong, staying steady when things get hard. Flashy moments are not where legacy is built. Consistency builds legacy. Consistency makes it, it takes what you're saying and the vision that you've placed out there and makes it something that happens day in and day out. It's staying consistent. It's being disciplined in that area. So here's the test of your leadership. Do people get stronger around you? Not impressed, not entertained, but stronger. Are you actually building people up? Do they leave conversations with you more grounded, more clear, more encouraged, or do they feel smaller, left out, put to the side? because Jesus consistently made men better. He made them stronger. He made them bolder. He made them more faithful. You can look at Peter and what he did with Peter. Peter was wild, rough around the edges, and Jesus came in and gave him direction, gave him leadership, gave him purpose, and it changed his life. And now we refer to him as Apostle Peter, the first church father, basically. So you you don't build followers, you build people. So ask yourself this honestly: who is watching my life right now? What kind of atmosphere do I bring into the room? Am I working on my character or just my skills? Where am I actually leading my family? Are people better because I'm in their life? So don't answer those right off the bat. Don't answer them too quickly. Take time, sit with it, take some notes, get your journal out and start taking notes and answer these questions honestly and clearly in your life. And then this week, I want you to pick one man, just one. And I want you to invest in him. I want you to encourage him. I want you to check on him, pray for him, help him. Don't have an agenda and don't seek recognition for it. Just show up and be a servant in his life and encourage him and ask him where he needs help. So, men, in closing, leadership is not reserved for a select few. It belongs to any man willing to take responsibility for his life. You don't need a title. You need backbone, you need character, and you need consistency. You don't need more followers. You need to become the kind of man worth following. So follow Christ, get your life aligned, and influence will take care of itself. So if this hit you, I want you to share it with another man who needs to hear this message, who needs to realize that he's a leader in his family, and he needs to like step up and really own that role in his life because that's something that was given to him to steward, and that responsibility is his to steward, not somebody else's. And remember, real transformation starts with clarity, it grows through consistency, and it produces confidence in your life. And until then, I'll see you in the next episode. Have a great day.